Insights, solutions, and networking all come together at RSA Conference. Join a global cybersecurity community at rsaconference.com/ITSP-MAG24. At AT&T, we simplify securing your most valuable business assets by providing broad cybersecurity experience and award-winning services. We manage the risk, you reap the reward. Learn more at cybersecurity.att.com. SquareX helps organizations detect, mitigate, and threat hunt web attacks happening against their users in real time. With its innovative browser-native security product, SquareX safeguards enterprise users from a spectrum of web-based threats, encompassing malicious files, websites, scripts, and compromised networks. Learn more at sqrx.com.
Marco.
Sean.
I'm no longer talking to you from space. I'm back on Earth.
Oh, okay. How long have you been up there?
A couple minutes, I think. Seemed like years, though.
Time is relative when you go that fast. Apparently, you come back and you may be younger, but that's a different conversation.
My watch
we're here
wasn't
to talk about space.
My watch wasn't synced to the pending new time zone. But,
Got it. I think we're here for something else.
I know.
Welcome
we are here
back
for
anyway.
Yes. So I made a trip to outer space on my way to RSA Conference. Part of our chats on the road. This is super fun. We're days away now, and tons of content, lots of conversations. The theme of the event is the art of possible, and I think it's a very powerful message. And a lot of people we talk to kind of pull on those strings of innovation and collaboration and what's possible with people, what's possible with technology, what's possible when we bring them all together. And nothing speaks to that more than innovation and investments in those things, right? So where are we making the investments to make our world better and safer? Because technology pulls us forward. Cybersecurity helps us do that safely. So I'm thrilled to have Dave DeWalt on. Dave, how's it going?
It's going great, Sean. Thank you for having me. As excited as you are. This is my 20th RSA event I'll be attending. So I'm really excited. Literally 20 years ago, my company EMC acquired RSA. And I was the president of EMC. We acquired it, and I started like, what's this show? And it was very cool. So I've gone to 20 of them in a row this year. So it's kind of like an anniversary at the same time.
I love it. Well, I'm a 20-year loyalty plus. I don't think I've been to every one in the 20 years, but I'm nearly right there with you. So I've seen a lot as of you, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So I'm confident most of the folks who listen to my show know who you are, but for the newcomers into the industry, maybe a few words about some of the things you've been involved with, EMC, RSA for one, and what you're up to now with Night Dragon.
Yeah, sure, Sean. Much like you, I've had a long tenure in this cyber market, both a privilege and honor to be a part of this incredible community, but also, had a front row seat to the threats and risks that are happening along the way. I got my first entry into it, as I mentioned, EMC and RSA coming together and having a chance to really see cyber through the eyes of RSA's product line. And then ultimately became CEO of McAfee and ran McAfee for six, 7 years, some number in there. Sold it to Intel Corporation, grew it quite a bit, sub 1 billion to 2.6 billion, and sold it for 7.7 billion in cash to Intel Corporation, the largest all cash transaction really ever done in cyber to this day, and proud of that, and helped my shareholders make a lot of money. But then I became chairman of two cool companies, one called FireEye and one called Mandiant. And I always say I love FireEye so much, became CEO, and I love Mandiant so much, I acquired it, merged those companies together, took it all public, hit a $16 billion market cap during that, did 5 years and 1 day of that CEO role. And along the way, I've sat on, I'm over 45 boards now, cyber boards during my career. I chair safety and security for Delta Airlines, my 13th year in that role with Delta Airlines, 4 administrations with the White House, 3 different presidents. I do work with Homeland Security, as you know, as well. And just an honor to be a part of this whole community. I now have a platform called Night Dragon. And you got to have cool names of companies in the world of cyber, right? So Night Dragon it is, but it's named after a famous and seminal moment in cyber history. When I was CEO of McAfee, there was a couple egregious Chinese IP theft attacks. First one called Aurora that involved Google kind of famously, a second one called Night Dragon, and a third called Shady Rat for remote access tool. So later on, I was like Aurora, Shady Rat, or Night Dragon. Shady Rat didn't sound so good, Sean, so I went with Night Dragon.
We're going to go for Shady Rat, actually.
You are?
Now that you mentioned
cool logos, too. Marco, that would be a good logo. Yeah.
I like your choice, Dave. I like your choice.
There you go.
Yeah, stick with that.
So fast forward, I've raised a lot of capital and a couple of funds, and we've invested into some of the coolest areas of cyber, but also the adjacencies where cyber kind of meets physical or supply chain or electronic warfares or blockchain or something that's, maybe not traditionally cloud mobile endpoint, network security, but around the edges that we also see a lot of threats and risks. So that's Night Dragon's mantra. You said it almost, securing our world for tomorrow. That's my mission statement. So there you go.
Well, let me squeeze in with a question. You said edges, and I feel like, are there really edges anymore? Like, I feel like there's smoother and they go forever. So,
yeah, Marco. I've been talking for 5 years pre-pandemic on what I call future fusion. You can look back at my presentations and things, but I've always talked about this perfect storm of threats and risks and geopolitical tensions and growing and expanding technology and vulnerabilities and number of attacker groups, almost like a perfect storm for 20 years that we've actually just seen get bigger and bigger as a storm, right? I mean, the market bigger, IPv4 to IPv6, trillions of, devices connected to our internet. Now we have space, we got air, we got ocean. I mean, all the domains merging together. And this future fusion is kind of fused, right? So the edges that you described, Marco, are kind of here. And so, what are we seeing all the time? Supply chain hacks that, affect cyber, or we're now having industrial attacks that have kinetic ramifications, or physical manifestations from cyber. It's omnipresent now, cyber as a digital universe cutting across almost every domain. And it's created a $500 billion a year market, probably going to $1 trillion, running 4 times faster than IT. It's probably one of our biggest existential threats in the world today, especially if you count information warfare that we're really starting to see present around the world. So the edge is, the world's not flat anymore, right? There's no more edge. Yep.
So I want to use this opportunity to kind of tap into the CISA Cybersecurity Advisory Committee. I know you're part of that group, and it's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. So we're connecting it to RSA Conference as well, because I think you have a session that kind of touches on some of this topic as well. So can you give us an overview what the CSAC is?
CSAC, Sean. CSAC.
I know. I didn't. Yeah. I'll let you say it. But now, what's the objective there? Because there's a lot of amazing members, clearly tied to DHS, looking at obviously the safety of America and its allies and whatnot. So, what's your role there? What's the mission and vision of that? And give us a little update there.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. I think everybody knows, if you don't know, Department of Homeland Security or the United States government formed an agency a few years back called CISA, the Cyber Infrastructure Security Agency, particularly targeted as an agency at cyber. And we've watched the maturation of that agency from relative infancy to a significant agency today with a multi-billion-dollar budget, with a focus of securing our world, literally the mantra. I think they stole it from me, Sean and Marco, but whatever, securing our world. But the idea there is really our domestic world, the United States Homeland Security brought digitally. And that involves everything from election securities to protecting our citizens physically and cyber. and really moving the ball forward in protecting our homeland as a mission. And I can't tell you how proud I am to be a part of that. Whatever political affiliation you might have, our administration under Jen Easterly, Director Easterly, has significantly moved the ball in terms of a number of programs. Her program called Shields Up, which was pretty famous during the Russian-Ukrainian attacks that we were seeing on United States infrastructure, both domestic and abroad. Volt Typhoon, which was a Chinese attack set against a lot of critical infrastructure, really brought a nomenclature and a readiness, almost like a DEFCON, using Shields Up, Shields Ready, but also forming public-private partnerships, what's called the JCDC, a Joint Collaborative Defense Coalition that really brings companies together. And you both know this, Marco and Sean, this is a team sport in cyber, right? You can't do it as just a government. You can't do it as one vendor. It takes a village. And that village was united together in Homeland Security, led by Jen Easterly, led by the civilians like myself and Ron Green, the chairman of CSEC, to really unite all of us together, threat sharing, threat management, communications, areas of importance. Like one of the areas is talent, boardroom, taking it seriously as a cyber risk. A committee that I led last year was really creating awareness in the boardroom. I mean, a fact there was 1.4% of the Fortune 500 had anywhere near what could be considered a cyber expert in the boardroom. I mean, when I say anywhere near, even technical acumen of cyber, and that's 1.4%. I mean, more than 50% didn't even have somebody qualified technically on their board. Yet the biggest threat we're seeing is cyber risk, causing trillions of dollars of damage to shareholders. So bringing about the world's problems through the eyes of Homeland Security is our mission. I think a lot of that moved forward. I hope it moves forward even more. At RSA, you're going to hear a lot more from Jen Easterly, from Ann Neuberger, from Senator Warner, Harry Coker, the new ONCD, National Cyber Director, the new head of the NSA Cyber Command, David Luber, who are all coming to our events, our Innovation Summit events. But government taking leadership is really something, I hate to say new, but something under this administration I've really taken note of and proud to be a part of. And, it's a non-paying job, but it's all about mission and really trying to protect our world. And it's been an honor.
I'm going to stick with the lack of edges and borders, maybe, in this case, and how it's not really, as you mentioned, just protecting the land on the land. It's about protecting the values of democracy all over the world. And as the internet doesn't have borders, cybercrime doesn't have borders, I'm curious to know how the U.S. intelligence has been adapting to cooperate maybe with the European communities, with other entities around the world, and how this orchestration is taking place nowadays, without giving us secret that you can't give us, of course.
Well, first of all public information, but relevant to that conversation question, Marco, is the strength of our Five Eye partners. For those who know what Five Eyes are, these are our closest allies. Not just with cyber intelligence, but other types of intelligence, Great Britain, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. These countries have been, very close partners to us over many, many years. But watching it expand to the NATO markets, the Asian markets, our collaboration abroad has really stepped up. So public to public, as you think of government to government, cooperation has increased pretty dramatically as well. And that's really been under not just Jen Easterly and Director Easterly's roles, but all of this administration. Most notable is our first cyber ambassador, Nate Fick, who is an incredible resource, reaching out to every embassy, working with the State Departments, driving collaboration to 100 countries around the world, trying to break down those borders that aren't there necessarily. In some cases where crime can be rampant, but we're getting there. I mean, it's a tough incremental by incremental kind of problem. We don't have like a World Health Organization to stop a physical virus, right? We almost need one in the world of cyber. But watching our ambassador roles are tightening because everybody sees this with numbers like 6 trillion in losses a year in the world of cyber and ransomware and operatives. I mean, last year alone, you guys probably saw this. In my whole time running FireEye and Mandate, we tracked about 800 groups, bad actor groups, that known permanent bad actor groups, which seems like a big number. Last year alone, we had 934 net new ones. 1 year, 934 net new groups. And the total's over 3,000 now. So when you see a 4x growth in the number of attacker groups during COVID and remote working and collaboration, it's a pretty scary thing. So collaboration amongst governments is becoming one of the most important things we have to do as a society to create peace in our cyber domain.
I love that, Dave. And I'm going to bring it to an area where I think another area there are no borders, and that's the software, right? And the software supply chain. And I know CIS is also doing a lot of work. Alan Friedman I've had on looking at software bill of materials. Bob Lord, we were talking about secure by design. And I'm curious how you see, because it's not just looking at the threats and the responses to those, but also building things and managing things in a secure way as well. So I know you're sitting down with Mark Warner, U.S. Senate Chairman and of the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence. Sorry. Can you share a little bit about what you're talking about there? Because I think the intelligence and the collaboration amongst states also helps us get ahead of the threat, not just respond to the threat. What do you think?
Yeah, Sean, I mean, 30-second preamble to that is, the world has seen 80 years of globalization kind of coming to an end. That's an unfortunate thing. Post-World War II, this world grew, got more connected. And what did we watch happen in, March 8th, 2020, as COVID really became rampant? Wow, borders changed, nationalism changed, populism changed, power changed, the 3 Ps, so to speak, right? So you start to see global supply chains changing nationalism and behaviors because everybody starved for a virus or an antivirus. And we started to see problems related to that. Suddenly conflicts with the United States and China over Taiwan began to change things. Russia, Ukraine began to change things. And we realized we might be living in a multipolar world versus maybe a globalized single polar world, creating a lot of pressure points. And one of the areas you just mentioned was supply chain and software. Wow, is that interesting? We put out a report at the beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian with one of my companies, Interos.ai, that showed every interdependence of software of Ukraine alone to the United States. It was staggering. Just Ukraine's software development environment touching the United States, let alone how it touches India or Israel or other countries around the world. And we realized, wow, is the vulnerability there? And then everybody woke up one day and said, oh, there's this little company called TSMC out there in Taiwan that produces all the chips. Oops, what happens if China takes over Taiwan? What are we going to do? Is America going to be dependent? Hence, a $50 billion CHIP Act comes about. So almost everything post-pandemic is making everybody realize the vulnerabilities in our supply chain, but what do we do about it? I mean, what we prefer is a global cooperation, almost like an Underwriter Labs, UL and everything, check mark, these products are safe and secure. The reality is that ain't happening because the governments are realizing they can create weaponry from this around the world too. So if I import drones or devices or TikTok or whatever it might be, I have a weapon and that weapon can be used. And so therefore this supply chain problem has become bigger and bigger and bigger. And we all woke up one day with SolarWinds. And for me, tracking this for 20 years, we've been watching supply chain attacks in software products for a long time. And at FireEye, I'd find zero-day exploits a week in the supply chain of software somewhere. And all of a sudden, SolarWinds comes. It took an existential crisis, and we now have S-bombs and software bill of materials and regulation beginning to happen. I mean, it should have happened a decade ago in what really was transpiring. So we have not fixed that. Log4j comes along. We all wake up and go, wow, here's another problem. Progress software comes along with Move It to another problem. And like one after another, Avanti recently. And here we are going into the art of the possible at RSA. And what's the biggest problem we have? We have no idea what our software supply chain really looks like. And now with AI and open source with prompt engineering and downloading of code into your data models, you want to take it to another level? And here we are with a $50 billion a year now investment engine in generative AI and less than $200 million investment engine in securing AI. Anybody think there's a problem with that one? Right? When you have that much investment on building and that little investment in securing, this is our world going forward, unfortunately. But history repeats itself. Every other segment, industrial networks, IoT networks, mobile devices, applications, et cetera. Here we are with generative AI. Same problem coming again.
Yep. Break out the deck from last decade and change the acronyms.
Unfortunately, I mean, that's the reality, because capitalism is so powerful that if you can make money off a product, why secure it? We'll worry about that problem later. And here we are, racing with ChatGPT 5 and I mean, the number of LLM models and every vendor and the poisoning opportunities, the hallucination opportunities, the obfuscation opportunity. If you're an attacker, you're in heaven right now. And if you're a defender, it's the other place. So, welcome to our new world.
Where's the other place? Bakersfield.
Did I scare? Yeah. HE double toothpicks, right? Isn't that what you say?
So I'm guessing as an investor, you kind of said it. You need to invest in cybersecurity. I mean, we can't keep ignoring that.
Yeah, agreed, Marco. I mean, this is a market that has a growing and maturing investment world, but it's oftentimes generalists with a little bit of people who know a little bit about cyber investing. But, we don't really, and that's what I've tried to do with Night Dragon here, is change that, not just be a strategic investor, but be a strategic operating partner to those companies and highly specialized in the world of security technology. And that's my vision, is to reimagine venture capital with a high, almost like fintech, biotech. I want to do secure tech, and I want to do it well. I want to operate companies, invest well, and scale them to solve these world problems that we're seeing. And you mentioned earlier, what are we worried about right now? Like one of the biggest ones is electronic warfare, no doubt. The future of hacking and cyber isn't malware. There's no doubt about it. And hear me on record with this. You won't going to hear CrowdStrike talk about this or Palo Alto because they don't want to hear it. But what I will tell you is the future of hacking is through radio frequencies. The way I'm going to hack your phone, the way I'm going to hack your computer, the way I'm going to destroy your computer, disrupt your computer, is through RF. And that battle is coming. Cyber meets electronic warfare is happening. So hacking is the new way through RF, and that is our future. So watch that problem emerge. And then, of course, made even greater through AI and our vulnerabilities on radio frequencies to avionics and ship frames, GPS poisoning, GPS spoofing. I mean, a lot of scary things can happen in that world. So cyber now expands in a whole new way going forward, and we're not prepared for that. So what are we going to do to stop electronic warfare? And if you haven't seen it, electronic management, what they call electromagnetic pulsing and spectrum, how do you shoot down a drone now? You don't shoot a missile at it. You shoot a pulse at it. You destroy the drone with a pulse. And so the art of this inertia is going to be the future, but it's also going to be an opportunity for investing in the future as well. And then the other one, sorry, I didn't mention, I'll go on for a second, is how do we stop deep fakes? I mean, what are we worried about out of the World Economic Forum? Is number one thing they came out of Davos with was disinformation, misinformation is like our biggest threat. So everything we're reading and looking at, is it true? Is it false? Who created it? Like what happened? Like we don't even know. And the social media platforms, I call it the 55 states of America. You have 5 companies now with multi-trillion-dollar market caps, bigger than any one state in America, with bigger cash flows in any one state, without regulation, doing whatever they want to do. And therefore, you have viral information on social media platforms that are really not governed for safety and security reasons that can create harm. And we watched this back in the 2016 elections. The Russian GRU, what did they do? Set up operations to affect the election. And what are we seeing again? Same thing happening. And we have no defenses against that. We have to fix content integrity on the internet. At least warn you what you're reading is fake. And we don't even do that today. So world of risk and world of opportunity.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Where does because I'm sure you could keep talking for another couple hours with equally impactful points on where we're exposed, and each one being equally challenging to solve. Where do we begin to solve these? Is it through venture capital? Is it through private investments? How does is it going to require government? I know CISA has an SVIP, which is investing in some technologies that builds the public-private partnership to onboard, bring advanced capabilities to market and then onboard them to the government to help the government be safer more quickly. That's just one small example. I don't know how much they're covering. I think they're very specific on the technologies they're looking at the moment. But how do we find that path forward where some of these super challenging problems can start to be solved? Is it in firms like yourself or with government? Where's it coming from?
We need leadership. We need to unite our leadership. And I mentioned like the JCDC or the public-private partnerships. Again, it's a team sport. We have to unite the crowd. We have to unite the ecosystem to work together. Because if Palo Alto doesn't share with CrowdStrike, what are we doing? Right? One learns about a threat and doesn't share it with the other threat. How do we begin to work together as a village to stop these problems? And that is governments working together, private companies working together, private companies working with governments together. It's the only way we're going to stop it before something bad, really bad happens. And we're starting to see really bad things when you start measuring global damage from cyber in the trillions and trillions. This is bigger than the global climate problems we're seeing, global corruption and drug problems. So cyber is becoming one of the biggest threats we're facing on this planet. And so we've got to unite. Leadership has to come together. Reasonableness needs to occur. And we need to create that union. I believe Meta wants to solve this. I believe Microsoft wants to solve this. I believe Google wants to solve this. But what we need is Google, Microsoft, and Meta working together to solve this. And that union and that leadership has to happen. And I feel like left to its own devices, capitalism gets too far out in front. So we need some regulation. You should not be able to release a product to consumers or businesses unless it's proven safe, at least to a certain level. Remember the days I mentioned UL? You plug something into your house, it doesn't burn down your house because you plugged it in. Well, if I plug something into my house, I want to know it doesn't get hacked. And so, or at least at a safer level. So secure by design has to happen. And people have to be held accountable for secure by design. It's almost like wearing your seatbelt or an airbag for your car. This isn't that hard. And so, some of those preventative measures make those 3,000 attackers have a much higher bar, and maybe only 100 of them can be successful, but that really reduced damages. So there's a lot we can do to make this a safer world. We got to do it. That's my passion.
Well, I vote for you for president.
There you go.
Nice speech, really motivating, and that stuff should be on the agenda of any program. We're talking about international relationship. We're talking about the future. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about democracy. So, I could go on and on, but I don't know, Sean. I think we have
What I want to go on and on about is everything, but we're gonna close here in a second. But Dave, you have a stage full of bright minds joining you. Mark Hatfield from 1011, later Storff from YL, Chenxi Wang from Marine Capital, and Nadav Zafrir from Team 8. And you're going to be looking at, obviously, the world of venture capital in this space. Without giving away any secrets, obviously you can't speak for them to give away their secrets, but what are you hoping to achieve with that conversation with those folks?
First of all, I'm really humbled to be in that group, right? I mean, Nadav Zafrir, former IDF 8200 Brigadier General, built Team 8, resulting in massive returns for his shareholders, multiple M&A exits. We call him YL. Yoav is an amazing, Mark Hatfield, Chenxi. I mean, these are really good operators, investors, really in that early stage phase. And that's really where the threat and risk is, because they look every day at that threat and risk, and they help build companies, incubation, early stage. And these are the best minds in the world that can help the audience see tomorrow's threat and what's going on. So how do I help bring that out to what they're seeing and how we as a community can solve that problem? Because these organizations that they represent are funding sources for tomorrow's threats. And so getting that out of that group, I think the world of all of them, they all come from different angles. That's why we have that group there. I think you'll learn a lot by listening to that audience, because they really are the best in the world. You're seeing the best in Israel. You're seeing the best of America. You're seeing the best globally, all in one group there. So it's a pretty cool audience. And I don't know if there's another panel that'll give you the insights to the emerging threat, the emerging markets quite like that one.
Yeah, it's a must see for sure, and I'm looking forward to it, Dave. And I have to do this because I'm sitting here looking at your background, and there's a belt behind you. What's the story with the belt?
Here's the belt. You can see that back there.
Again, I want to know the story.
It's really silly. So I'm born in the year of the dragon. Not that I want to admit that too much, because then you can figure out how old I am. But name my company, a lot of dragon-related things in my world. But this year is my 60th birthday. It's Thursday, and I'm doing a 30-day birthday extravaganza. So take 30 seconds. I just came back from a 10-day wellness camp, fitness camp with my son. And I hiked 86 miles, ate vegan, did all the things, and get healthy for the next 20 days, which includes a very honorable RSA week, which I'm really excited to do keynotes to and hug all my professional friends and family for 20 plus years that we've been in the trenches with, and have a chance to share that. Then I'm going to have a rock and roll birthday party. And that rock and roll birthday party is you got to wear your favorite rock and roll T-shirt and bring me an album. So I have 100 plus people come to my house to have a rock and roll party. Then I'm going on a 12-day Winnebago trip across America with my friends, with 3 different groups of friends, to golf and fish across America. And, go big or go home. That's my strategy of life. But I'm doing a Winnebago trip, and I'm playing some unbelievable golf courses and things, and fishing with my friends, and taking a moment to reflect on life and love and friendships and family that are really important, both professionally and personally. And the belt was brought to me by some of my friends, and it says, the Rock and Roll Tour, which is the tour we're going to go on. So if you see me going down the highway of like New Mexico or Texas in a Winnebago with rock and roll music playing really loud with my friends in it, that's me.
There you go. It's funny. I saw that post and I thought that's an inspirational post, and I had no idea it was connected to the belt. So it was meant to be to talk about that. I'm super, super excited for you, Dave. And thrilled for what you're doing at RSA next week, and looking forward to meeting you and hopefully sharing a hug as well. So thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate your insight. I mean, very mind opening. A lot to think about here, and we all have a role to play. So if you're listening, pick the spot you want to participate and jump in, help out. And please do stay tuned as we continue our chats on the road to RSA Conference. I just did a post this morning. I figured we have like another 10 conversations before next week, and probably twice that during the week, all coming to you from ITSP Magazine. So thanks, Marco. Good to see you. And I'm going to head back up to space on my way back over to San Francisco.
Sean, Marco, thank you for having me. And by the way, keep up the great work on all the things you're doing. So it's an honor to see you, and I hope to give you a hug when I do see you.
Love it. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. Thanks, everybody.
At AT&T, we simplify securing your most valuable business assets by providing broad cybersecurity experience and award-winning services. We manage the risk. You reap the reward. Learn more at cybersecurity.att.com. SquareX helps organizations detect, mitigate, and threat hunt web attacks happening against their users in real time. With its innovative browser-native security product, SquareX safeguards enterprise users from a spectrum of web-based threats, encompassing malicious files, websites, scripts, and compromised networks. Learn more at sqrx.com. Insights, solutions, and networking all come together at RSA Conference. Join a global cybersecurity community at rsaconference.com/ITSP Mag 24.